You know that sinking feeling when you're trying so hard to change your life but keep getting the same disappointing results? When you're doing everything right but somehow always end up back where you started? What if I told you the problem isn't that you're not trying hard enough? It's that you're accidentally programming your reality to give you exactly what you don't want. Every thought, every emotion, every unconscious expectation you have is sending a signal into an invisible field that shapes what shows up in your life. Right now, you're broadcasting a frequency, and the universe is responding to it with terrifying accuracy. The catch? Most people have no clue what signal they're actually sending. You might be saying, "I want success," while your body is braced for failure. You could be visualizing love while your heart expects rejection. That's not manifestation, that's self-sabotage on a quantum level. But once you learn to clean up your signal and broadcast the right frequency, reality bends faster than you ever thought possible. The people who seem to effortlessly attract everything they want aren't special. They just figured out how to tune into the timeline where they already have it. And in the next few minutes, you're going to learn exactly how they do it. Most people think they're living in a fixed reality where things just happen randomly. They wake up, go through their day reacting to whatever shows up, and assume they have no real control over outcomes. But what if everything you've been taught about how reality works is completely backwards? You're not living in a solid world. You're swimming in an infinite ocean of pure possibility called the quantum field. Imagine every potential version of your life existing simultaneously right now. The version where you're wealthy, confident, and free. The timeline where you found your soulmate years ago. The reality where you're living your dream life without stress or struggle. They're all there, broadcasting like radio stations, waiting for someone to tune in. Here's what'll mess with your head. Scientists have proven that at the quantum level, particles don't have fixed positions or properties. They exist in what's called superposition, meaning they're literally everywhere and nowhere at the same time. They only collapse into one specific reality when consciousness observes them. Your awareness doesn't just witness reality, it actively creates it. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think observation means looking with their eyes or thinking with their mind. The real observer is much deeper. It's your entire being, your subconscious programming, your nervous system, your emotional patterns, even your breathing. All of these are constantly communicating with the quantum field, sending signals about what you expect, what you fear, what you believe is possible. Think of the field like the ultimate responsive environment. It's not judging your desires or deciding what you deserve. It's like a perfect mirror that reflects back whatever frequency you're broadcasting most consistently. If you're vibrating at the frequency of lack, struggle, and disappointment, that's exactly what gets reflected back to you. If you're resonating with abundance, ease, and possibility, the field mirrors that instead. The wild part is this communication happens faster than thought. Before you even consciously realize you're worried about something, your nervous system has already sent that worry signal into the field. Before you finish that negative thought, the quantum environment has already started organizing to match it. You're having a conversation with reality that never stops, and most of the time you're completely unconscious of what you're actually saying. This is why some people seem to attract drama everywhere they go, while others effortlessly land in amazing situations. It's not luck or coincidence. The drama attractors are unconsciously broadcasting chaos, conflict, and instability. Their field responds by delivering exactly that. The lucky ones have learned to maintain a clear, coherent signal that magnetizes opportunities, connections, and positive synchronicities. Your thoughts create ripples in this field, but your emotions create waves. When you feel something deeply, with genuine intensity, you're sending a powerful transmission that the field can't ignore. This is why people often manifest their biggest fears. They're not just thinking about worst-case scenarios. They're feeling them with such emotional charge that the field interprets it as a clear order and delivers accordingly. But when you understand how this really works, everything changes. You realize you're not a victim of circumstances. You're not at the mercy of random events or other people's choices. You're a conscious broadcaster with the ability to tune into any timeline you want. The field is waiting for you to get clear about what station you actually want to receive. The question isn't whether this works. The field is already responding to you every single moment. The only question is whether you're going to stay unconscious and keep getting random results, or wake up and start deliberately choosing what signal you broadcast into the infinite ocean of possibility surrounding you right now. Here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear. You're already a master manifester. You've been perfectly creating your current reality for years. The problem isn't that manifestation doesn't work. The problem is you're manifesting unconsciously, and most of the time you're manifesting exactly what you don't want. Every morning when you wake up with that familiar knot of anxiety in your stomach, you're placing an order with the universe for more things to be anxious about. When you catch yourself thinking, "I can't afford this," while looking at something you want, you're literally programming scarcity into your field. When you brace yourself for disappointment before a date, interview, or opportunity, you're broadcasting "please deliver disappointment" at a frequency the quantum field receives loud and clear. Most people are walking around with completely scrambled signals. They'll spend 5 minutes doing affirmations saying "I am abundant," while their nervous system is in full panic mode about next month's rent. They'll visualize their dream relationship for 10 minutes, then spend the rest of the day feeling unworthy of love. That's not manifestation. That's internal warfare, and the field gets caught in the crossfire. Your conscious mind might want success, but if your subconscious is running programs like "I don't deserve good things" or "people like me don't get lucky breaks," guess which signal wins? The subconscious operates at about 40 million bits of information per second, while your conscious mind processes about 40 bits per second. It's like trying to whisper over a stadium full of screaming fans. The field hears the loudest, most consistent message, and that's usually whatever your subconscious has been rehearsing for decades. Here's what makes it worse. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between reality and imagination. It treats a vividly imagined scenario exactly the same as a real memory. So every time you replay that embarrassing moment from last week, you're reinforcing neural pathways that expect more embarrassment. Every time you imagine your business failing, you're literally training your brain to recognize and create failure patterns. You think you're just worrying, but you're actually conducting detailed rehearsals for unwanted outcomes. The field doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't matter that you didn't mean it when you spent 20 minutes spiraling about worst-case scenarios. It doesn't care that you were just being realistic when you expected things to go wrong. The quantum environment responds to the totality of your signal, not your excuses for why you're sending it. This is why positive thinking alone doesn't work. You can't think your way out of emotional programming. Your body holds cellular memories of every trauma, disappointment, and limiting belief you've ever experienced. These memories create automatic responses that send signals below the threshold of consciousness. You might be affirming confidence while your posture screams insecurity. You could be visualizing wealth while your breathing pattern signals survival mode. The field reads these mixed messages and delivers mixed results. You get just enough success to keep hoping, but not enough to actually transform your life. You attract almost relationships that never quite work out. You land opportunities that don't quite pan out. You're stuck in the purgatory of partial manifestation because you're sending partial signals. But here's what's even more insidious. Most people have been conditioned to believe they don't deserve their desires. Society trains us to expect struggle, to earn love, to prove our worth through suffering. These beliefs run so deep they feel like truth instead of programming. When something good starts to manifest, an internal alarm goes off saying "this is too good to be true," or "I haven't suffered enough for this yet." That resistance becomes part of your broadcast. You're simultaneously calling something in and pushing it away. You're pressing the gas and the brakes at the same time, wondering why you're not moving forward. The field responds by delivering experiences that match your internal conflict, situations that arrive but don't last, opportunities that appear but slip away. The people who seem to manifest effortlessly aren't superhuman. They've just learned to clean up their signal. They've done the inner work to align their conscious desires with their subconscious programming. When they say they want something, every part of them agrees. There's no internal debate, no conflicting frequencies, no static interference. They broadcast a clear, coherent message, and the field responds with mathematical precision. The good news, once you understand you're already manifesting perfectly, you can start doing it on purpose. But first, you have to get brutally honest about what signal you're actually sending right now. Not what you wish you were broadcasting, not what you think you should be transmitting, but the raw, unfiltered frequency that's been creating your current reality. Because until you face that signal honestly, you'll keep getting the same results no matter how many techniques you try. This is where things get really twisted. You think you're just living your life, reacting to what happens to you. But quantum physics has shattered that illusion completely. At the deepest level of reality, nothing exists in a fixed state until it's observed. The quantum field is pure potential, infinite possibilities existing simultaneously, waiting for consciousness to collapse them into a single experience. And you're that consciousness. But here's the trap that keeps most people stuck. You're not just observing with your eyes or your conscious awareness. Every part of you is an observer. Your subconscious mind, which never sleeps, is constantly watching reality through the lens of your past experiences, traumas, and deeply embedded beliefs. While you're consciously hoping for love, Your subconscious might be observing through the filter of every rejection you've ever experienced. While you're trying to manifest abundance, your deeper mind could be watching the world through the expectation of scarcity that was programmed into you as a child. The quantum field doesn't discriminate between your conscious observations and your unconscious ones. In fact, your subconscious observations are significantly more powerful because they're happening 24/7 without resistance from your logical mind. You might spend 10 minutes a day visualizing success, but if you spend the other 23 hours and 50 minutes unconsciously expecting failure, guess which timeline gets the stronger signal? Every expectation you hold is an act of observation that collapses potential into reality. When you wake up and unconsciously expect your day to be stressful, you're not just predicting stress, you're collapsing all the peaceful possibilities into the stressful timeline. When you walk into a social situation expecting to be awkward, you're actively creating the reality where awkwardness becomes inevitable. You think you're being realistic, but you're actually being a quantum architect of your own limitations. This is why so many people feel cursed or like they have bad luck. They're not victims of random circumstances, they've become unconscious observers of worst-case scenarios. Their attention has been trained to scan for problems, threats, and reasons why things won't work out. This constant observation of negative possibilities literally pulls those timelines into manifestation. They're manifesting perfectly, just in the exact opposite direction of what they consciously want. The really mind-bending part is that your past doesn't just influence your present through memory. In quantum terms, your past observations are still actively collapsing waves in your current reality. The childhood experience of not being chosen for the team isn't just a memory, it's an active observation that keeps collapsing possibilities where you don't get chosen now. That heartbreak from 5 years ago isn't just emotional baggage, it's a quantum observation that keeps manifesting relationship patterns where you get hurt. Your nervous system plays a huge role in this observation process. When you're in a state of chronic stress or anxiety, you're observing reality through the filter of survival mode. Everything becomes a potential threat. Every opportunity gets scanned for what could go wrong. Every person gets evaluated for how they might hurt you. This hyper-vigilant observation creates a reality where threats and disappointments are constantly validated, because that's what you're unconsciously looking for. But here's where it gets even more complex. You don't just observe with your mind. Your entire body is an observation instrument. Scientists have discovered that the heart generates an electromagnetic field that's 60 times stronger than the brain's electrical field. This heart field extends several feet beyond your body and directly interacts with the quantum field around you. When your heart is closed due to past hurt, you're observing reality from a state of protection and scarcity. When your heart is open and coherent, you become a powerful observer of love, abundance, and possibility. Most people have no idea that their emotional state is constantly collapsing quantum possibilities. When you're in fear, you're observing from the timeline where scary things happen. When you're in anger, you're watching reality through the lens where people disappoint you and situations frustrate you. When you're in gratitude and joy, you're observing from timelines where amazing things unfold naturally. Your emotional state isn't just how you feel about reality, it's literally the filter through which you're creating reality. The observer trap gets even deeper when you realize that you're often observing other people's limitations and making them real in your experience. If you constantly observe your partner as someone who doesn't appreciate you, you're collapsing their behavior into that pattern. If you observe your boss as someone who doesn't recognize your value, you're actively creating that dynamic. You think you're just noticing what's already there, but you're actually participating in creating what you're observing. Breaking free from this trap requires becoming conscious of what you're actually observing moment by moment. Most people are completely unconscious observers, running on automatic programs that scan for familiar patterns. They observe scarcity because they're used to scarcity. They notice rejection because they expect rejection. They see problems because they're trained to find problems. Their observation has become a habit that keeps recreating the same reality over and over. But when you wake up to your power as an observer, everything changes. You realize that every moment offers infinite possibilities, and your observation is the deciding factor in which possibility becomes real. You can choose to observe your partner's love instead of their flaws. You can observe opportunities instead of obstacles. You can observe your own potential instead of your limitations. This isn't positive thinking, it's quantum mechanics. You're literally selecting which version of reality gets to exist in your experience. The most powerful observers learn to watch from the state they want to create. Instead of observing their current lack, they observe from the feeling of already having. Instead of watching their problems, they observe solutions. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, they become fascinated with what's possible. This shift in observation doesn't just change how they feel about reality, it changes the actual quantum structure of their experience. They become conscious collapses of the wave function, deliberately choosing which timeline gets to manifest in their life. Here's where most people completely lose the game. They spend their entire lives trying to get things from a state of not having them. They want love while feeling unlovable. They desire money while vibrating at the frequency of broke. They chase success while embodying the energy of failure. That's like trying to tune into a jazz station while your radio is set to heavy metal. You're never going to receive what you want because you're not matching its frequency. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. Every timeline, every possible reality has its own energetic signature, its own vibrational frequency. The version of you that's wealthy doesn't just have money. They think differently, feel differently, breathe differently, walk differently than the broke version of you. The you that's in love doesn't just have a partner, they radiate a completely different energy than the lonely version of you. Most people are trying to pull their desired reality down to their current frequency instead of rising up to match the frequency where that reality already exists. They're like someone standing in the basement trying to grab something from the roof. No matter how hard they reach, they're never going to touch it from that level. But if they climb the stairs to match the altitude, suddenly it's right there waiting for them. This is why visualization alone doesn't work for most people. They spend 20 minutes picturing their dream life, then spend the next 23 hours and 40 minutes thinking, feeling, and acting like the old version of themselves. They visit their desired frequency briefly, then immediately drop back down to their familiar baseline. The field reads their dominant signal, which is still the old programming, and delivers accordingly. Frequency alignment means becoming the person who already lives in that reality before it shows up. When you want to manifest money, you don't just think about having money. You embody the calm confidence of someone whose finances flow easily. When you want to attract love, you don't just imagine being with someone. You cultivate the self-worth and openness of someone who naturally draws healthy relationships. You're not pretending or faking it. You're tuning into the version of you that already exists in a parallel quantum reality. Here's what'll blow your mind. Every version of you that you could ever become already exists right now in the quantum field. The confident you, the successful you, the loved you, the free you. They're all broadcasting their unique frequencies simultaneously. Your job isn't to create these versions, it's to align with them. It's like switching channels on an infinite cosmic television. All the shows are playing at once. You just need to tune into the one you want to watch. But this alignment has to happen on every level of your being, not just mentally. Your thoughts need to match the frequency. Your emotions need to resonate with it. Your body language needs to embody it. Your breathing patterns need to reflect it. Even your micro-expressions need to align with that timeline. The field reads the total signal, and if even one part of you is out of tune, it creates interference that distorts the manifestation. Most people underestimate how deeply frequency alignment goes. It's not just about feeling good or thinking positive thoughts. It's about rewiring your nervous system to feel safe with your desires. It's about training your subconscious to expect good things instead of bracing for disappointment. It's about healing the parts of you that believe you don't deserve what you want. Frequency alignment is full-spectrum transformation, not surface-level adjustments. Your body is actually one of the most powerful frequency transmitters you have. The way you carry yourself sends a signal stronger than any affirmation. If you want to manifest confidence but you're walking around with collapsed shoulders and shallow breathing, you're broadcasting insecurity no matter what you're thinking. If you want to attract abundance but you're constantly in a state of tension and stress, you're transmitting scarcity at a cellular level. The people who manifest quickly have learned to inhabit their desired frequency like putting on clothes. They don't wait to feel successful until after they achieve something. They cultivate the inner experience of success first, then the external results follow naturally. They don't postpone feeling lovable until someone loves them. They generate that feeling internally, then attract people who match that vibration. This is where ancient wisdom and quantum physics completely align. The mystics always said, as within, so without, and you become what you behold. They understood that reality is inside out, not outside in. The alchemists weren't trying to turn physical lead into physical gold. They were transforming the lead consciousness of limitation into the gold consciousness of possibility. When the inner shifted, the outer transformation became inevitable. Frequency alignment also means releasing resistance to your desires. Most people want things while simultaneously feeling guilty, unworthy, or afraid of actually having them. They create internal conflicts that scramble their signal. Part of them is calling their desires in while another part is pushing them away. The field receives this mixed message and delivers mixed results, partial manifestations that never quite solidify. You have to get comfortable with having what you want before it arrives. This means facing all the fears that come up when you imagine actually living your dream life. What if people judge you for having money? What if success makes you arrogant? What if love makes you vulnerable? These subconscious fears create resistance that blocks the very things you're trying to attract. Frequency alignment requires clearing these blocks so your signal becomes pure and unobstructed. The most advanced manifestors learn to live in their desired frequency regardless of current circumstances. Their external situation might not match their vision yet, but internally they've already made the shift. They think the thoughts, feel the emotions, and take the actions of someone who already has what they want. They're not waiting for permission from reality to feel good. They're giving themselves permission to embody their desired state right now. This isn't about being delusional or ignoring current reality. It's about understanding that current reality is just the result of past frequency, and if you want different results, you need to broadcast a different signal starting now. Every moment you spend aligned with your desired frequency is a moment you're actively creating that timeline. Every second you drop back into old patterns is a vote for your current reality to continue. The field is always listening, always responding, always ready to deliver whatever frequency you're consistently broadcasting. The question isn't whether you can align with what you want. The question is whether you're willing to become the person who naturally lives in that reality, starting right now, before you have any external proof that it's possible. This is where most people completely sabotage themselves without even realizing it. The moment they start seeing signs that their manifestation is working, they immediately try to grab control of the process. They start checking obsessively to see if it's coming fast enough. They begin micromanaging every detail, trying to force specific timelines and outcomes. They turn into quantum control freaks, and that desperate energy completely scrambles their signal. Here's the paradox that breaks most people's brains. The harder you try to control your manifestation, the more you're telling the quantum field that you don't actually believe it's already yours. Control is fear disguised as action. When you're gripping tightly to how and when something should happen, you're broadcasting doubt at a frequency so loud it drowns out your desire. You're essentially saying, "I don't trust this process," while simultaneously trying to make it work. The field reads this desperation as a clear signal that you're operating from lack, not abundance. Someone who truly has something doesn't frantically check to make sure it's still there. Someone who genuinely believes in their manifestation doesn't need to force every detail into place. Your controlling behavior becomes evidence to the quantum field that you don't actually expect your desire to manifest naturally, so it responds by making manifestation feel forced and difficult. Most people have been programmed by society to believe that value comes from struggle. We're taught that anything worthwhile requires grinding, pushing, and forcing your way through obstacles. This cultural conditioning makes surrender feel like laziness and trust feel like naivety. But in the quantum realm, the opposite is true. The more effort you apply, the more resistance you create. It's like trying to force a river to flow uphill. You can exhaust yourself trying, but you're working against the natural current. The irony is that controlling behavior actually slows down manifestation or blocks it completely. When you're constantly checking your bank account to see if money has appeared, you're affirming that it hasn't arrived yet. When you're analyzing every text from someone you're trying to attract, you're operating from the assumption that you don't have their interest. When you're forcing opportunities that don't feel aligned, you're telling the field that natural opportunities aren't coming. Real power comes from learning to direct your energy instead of scattering it through controlling behaviors. Instead of trying to manipulate external circumstances, you focus on managing your internal state. You become a master of your own frequency rather than a slave to outcomes. You put your energy into maintaining alignment, regulating your nervous system, and staying present rather than exhausting yourself trying to push reality into shape. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop taking action. It means you shift from desperate action to inspired action. Desperate action comes from fear and feels forced, frantic, and draining. Inspired action comes from alignment and feels natural, energizing, and effective. When you're in surrender, you still move forward, but you're flowing with the current instead of fighting against it. Letting go also means releasing your attachment to specific timelines. The quantum field operates outside of linear time. What your mind perceives as delay might actually be perfect timing orchestrated by forces you can't see. Maybe you need to develop certain skills first. Maybe certain people need to be in position. Maybe your nervous system needs time to adjust to receiving what you want. The field has access to information your conscious mind doesn't, and trusting that intelligence requires emotional maturity. The people who manifest fastest are often the ones who care least about when it happens. They've fallen in love with the process of becoming the person who naturally has what they want. They're more interested in their growth than their goals. They understand that the real prize isn't the external outcome, it's who they become in the process of aligning with it. This detachment from timeline creates space for the field to deliver in the most perfect way possible. Control freaks often miss their manifestations because they're so fixated on how they think it should look that they don't recognize it when it shows up differently. They want love to arrive as a specific type of person, so they miss the amazing connection right in front of them. They want money to come through their current job, so they ignore the business opportunity their friend mentions. They want healing to happen instantly, so they dismiss the gradual improvements actually occurring. Surrender requires rewiring your relationship with uncertainty. Most people are terrified of not knowing how or when their desires will manifest, so they try to create false certainty through controlling behaviors. But uncertainty is actually the space where magic happens. It's the fertile void where infinite possibilities exist before they collapse into form. Learning to be comfortable in that space of not knowing is essential for advanced manifestation. The deepest level of letting go means releasing your need for manifestation to prove your worth. Many people use their ability to manifest as evidence that they're special, spiritual, or deserving. But when manifestation becomes about ego validation rather than authentic desire, it creates pressure that interferes with the natural flow. You stop enjoying the process and start performing for results. The field senses this performance energy and responds with more performance rather than genuine manifestation. True surrender is falling in love with who you're becoming, regardless of whether your specific desires manifest or not. It's finding fulfillment in the journey of alignment itself. When you reach this level of detachment, something magical happens. The field stops feeling like something you need to convince and starts feeling like something you're dancing with. Manifestation becomes play instead of work, and results start flowing with an ease that would have seemed impossible when you were trying to control everything. The ultimate paradox is that when you completely let go of needing to control your manifestation, you actually gain more power over your reality than you ever had through forcing. But it's not the power of domination, it's the power of alignment. You become a conscious collaborator with the quantum field instead of someone trying to manipulate it. And in that collaboration, miracles become natural, impossible becomes inevitable, and your deepest desires manifest with a grace that no amount of control could ever achieve. Once you release the need to control everything, something uncomfortable starts happening. All the mental chatter you've been drowning out with busy work suddenly becomes impossible to ignore. Those familiar voices start getting louder. It's not working. I'm not good enough. This is just wishful thinking. People like me don't get lucky breaks. These aren't random thoughts popping up to annoy you. They're the operating system that's been running your life for years, and they will absolutely destroy any manifestation if left unchallenged. These mental loops are like broken records that keep playing the same song over and over. They're the echo of every disappointment, every rejection. Your subconscious mind has taken all these experiences and turned them into predictive programs that scan your current reality, looking for evidence that the same patterns are about to repeat. It's trying to protect you from future hurt by keeping you locked in familiar limitation. But here's what's terrifying. These loops don't just affect how you feel. They're actively broadcasting instructions to the quantum field about what to manifest next. Every time you think nothing ever works out for me, you're placing an order for more situations where things don't work out. Every time you tell yourself, I'm not the type of person who gets opportunities, you're programming the field to overlook you when opportunities arise. You're literally talking yourself out of your desires at a quantum level. The most dangerous loops are the ones that feel true. They've been validated by so much past experience that questioning them feels delusional. I always attract the wrong people. Money slips through my fingers. Good things don't last for me. These statements feel like facts because they've been lived experiences, but they're not universal truths about reality. They're just patterns that got locked in through repetition, and anything that got programmed can be reprogrammed. Your nervous system is addicted to these familiar patterns because they're predictable. Even if the patterns create suffering, at least the suffering is known. Your subconscious would rather have you miserable in a familiar way than happy in an unknown way. So when you start shifting towards something better, internal alarms start going off. This is too good to be true. I don't deserve this. Something bad is about to happen. These aren't insights or intuition. They're withdrawal symptoms from breaking your addiction to limitation. The loops get even more sophisticated than simple negative thoughts. They disguise themselves as logic, realism and practical thinking. I need to be responsible and not get my hopes up. I should focus on what's realistic instead of dreaming. I don't want to be disappointed again. These sound mature and grounded, but they're actually fear masquerading as wisdom. They're mental strategies to avoid the vulnerability of wanting something and potentially not getting it. Some of the deepest loops are inherited. You're carrying mental patterns that don't even belong to you. Your parents' beliefs about money, their fears about relationships, their limitations around success. All of this got downloaded into your subconscious before you even learned to speak. You might be running your grandmother's scarcity program or your father's fear of rejection without ever consciously choosing these beliefs. You're manifesting based on someone else's limitations. Breaking these loops requires conscious disruption, but most people try to fight them with logic, which never works. You can't think your way out of an emotional pattern that was created through lived experience. The subconscious doesn't respond to reasoning. It responds to new experiences that contradict the old programming. You have to give it evidence that a different pattern is possible. The first step is catching the loop in real time. Most of these thoughts happen so automatically that you don't even notice them. They run like background software while your conscious attention is focused elsewhere. Start becoming aware of the mental commentary that's constantly playing. When you notice a familiar negative thought, don't try to stop it or argue with it. Just observe it like you're watching a movie. Oh, there's that story about not being good enough again. Create space between you and the thought. You are not your thoughts. You're the awareness that can observe thoughts. This distinction is crucial because it gives you choice. When you're identified with the thought, you have no power over it. When you recognize yourself as the observer of the thought, you can decide whether to engage with it or let it pass. Once you've created that space, ask yourself a simple question: is this thought aligned with the timeline I want to live in? If the answer is no, you have an opportunity to redirect, not through force or suppression, but through gentle intention. Choose a thought that serves your desired reality instead. If the old thought was "I never get what I want," try "I'm open to receiving in unexpected ways." You're not trying to convince yourself of something you don't believe. You're just offering your mind a different option. The key is repetition without attachment. You're not trying to force yourself to believe the new thought immediately. You're just practicing it like learning a new language. Every time you choose the aligned thought over the old loop, you're weakening the neural pathway of the pattern and strengthening a new one. Neuroplasticity research shows that the brain physically rewires itself based on repeated experiences. You're literally changing your brain structure through conscious choice, but thoughts alone won't break deep patterns. You need to give your nervous system new experiences that contradict the old programming. If your loop says "I can't handle success," start taking small actions that demonstrate you can handle good things responsibly. If your pattern insists "people always leave me," practice being the kind of person who creates lasting connections. You're not trying to prove anything to anyone else. You're providing your subconscious with new data that makes the old loop obsolete. The most powerful loop breakers are identity shifts. Instead of trying to change what you think, change who you're being. Old thoughts lose their power when they don't match your current identity. If you've been identifying as someone who struggles with money, consciously start identifying as someone who has a healthy relationship with abundance. This isn't about pretending or faking it. It's about recognizing that your identity is a choice, not a fixed fact. Physical practices can accelerate this process because the body and mind are inseparably connected. Change your posture, change your thoughts, adjust your breathing, shift your emotional state. The loops often live in the body as much as the mind. Tension, shallow breathing, and collapsed posture all reinforce limiting mental patterns. When you change how you inhabit your body, you automatically disrupt the mental loops that were anchored in that physical state. Some loops are so deep they require professional help to unravel. Trauma-informed therapy, somatic healing, or other modalities can help release patterns that feel too big to handle alone. There's no shame in getting support. The goal isn't to be perfect or to eliminate all challenging thoughts. It's to develop enough awareness and skill that the old loops stop running your life automatically. The beautiful thing about breaking mental loops is that it's cumulative. Every time you catch a pattern and consciously redirect, you get stronger at doing it. What used to take hours to shift might eventually take minutes. What once felt impossible to change becomes a simple choice. You develop what you could call mental fitness, the ability to consciously choose your thoughts instead of being at their mercy. As the loops weaken, something amazing happens. The mental space that was occupied by repetitive negative patterns becomes available for creativity, inspiration, and possibility. Your mind stops being a prison of limitation and becomes a playground of potential. And that shift in mental environment creates a completely different signal to the quantum field, one that attracts experiences that match your new internal reality instead of your old programming. This is where everything you've learned either becomes a life-changing reality or just another collection of interesting concepts you forget about in a week. Living the signal means making coherence your baseline, not something you visit during meditation or when you remember to be positive. It's the difference between people who have temporary breakthroughs and people who completely transform their entire existence. Most people treat manifestation like a hobby. They do their visualization for 10 minutes in the morning, then spend the rest of the day completely unconscious of what frequency they're broadcasting. They think they can compartmentalize their spiritual practice while living the other 95% of their life from old patterns. But the quantum field doesn't take breaks. It's reading your signal 24/7, responding to who you're being in every mundane moment, not just during your peak state practices. Living as the signal means your entire lifestyle becomes a frequency broadcast. The way you wake up in the morning, how you move through your space, the energy you bring to conversations, how you handle stress, even how you breathe when nobody's watching. Every micro moment becomes an opportunity to either reinforce your desired timeline or slip back into the old one. There's no neutral. You're either moving toward your vision or away from it with every choice you make. Your body becomes one of your most powerful manifestation tools when you learn to use it consciously. The version of you that already has everything you want doesn't just think differently, they inhabit their body differently. They breathe deeper because they're not in survival mode. They move with more confidence because they're not bracing for rejection. Their posture reflects worth because they actually feel worthy. You can't fake this for long, but you can gradually grow into it through consistent practice. Start paying attention to your physical presence throughout the day. When you're walking, are you moving like someone who's defeated or someone who's headed somewhere important? When you're speaking, is your voice coming from your throat in a tight, anxious way, or from your chest with authority and presence? When you're sitting, are you collapsed inward like you're trying to disappear, or are you taking up space like someone who belongs wherever they are? These aren't superficial adjustments. Your nervous system is constantly sending signals about your internal state through your physical presence, and the quantum field reads these signals as clearly as any conscious intention. When your body language shifts to match your desired identity, your subconscious starts believing the new story faster than any affirmation could convince it. The people in your life become mirrors reflecting back your dominant frequency. As you stabilize in coherence, you'll notice certain relationships naturally shifting. Some people who were used to the old version of you might feel uncomfortable with your growth and pull away. This isn't personal, and it's not permanent. Your changing frequency is simply revealing which connections were based on shared limitation versus genuine compatibility. At the same time, new people will start appearing who match your elevated vibration. Opportunities you never would have noticed before suddenly become visible. Synchronicities multiply because you're finally broadcasting clearly enough for the field to respond with precision. You become a magnet for experiences that match your internal state instead of someone who's constantly swimming against the current of their own resistance. But here's what separates the people who transform permanently from those who just have temporary shifts. The real practitioners learn to return to their chosen frequency with grace when they inevitably slip into old patterns. You're not trying to be perfect or maintain peak state every moment. You're developing the skill to recalibrate quickly when you notice you've drifted off course. Doubt will still visit, fear will still knock. Old insecurities will still surface. The difference is that instead of being hijacked by these states for hours or days, you recognize them faster and have tools to shift back into alignment. One conscious breath, one moment of awareness, one small action that reflects your true identity, and you're back on frequency. The power isn't in never falling, it's in how quickly you rise. This is why daily practices become non-negotiable for serious manifestors. Not because you have to earn your desires through spiritual disciplines, but because consistent practice builds the mental and emotional muscles that allow you to maintain coherence under pressure. Whether it's meditation, journaling, breathwork, or movement, these practices aren't separate from your manifestation. They are your manifestation in action. The most advanced practitioners reach a point where living as the signal becomes effortless because it's finally more comfortable than the old patterns. The new identity stops feeling like something you're trying to maintain and starts feeling like who you naturally are. You're not performing confidence. You've become confident. You're not pretending to be abundant. Abundance has become your baseline experience of reality. When you reach this level of integration, manifestation stops feeling like magic and starts feeling like natural law. You expect good things because you've become someone good things naturally happen to. You attract opportunities because you've developed the internal qualities that make you genuinely valuable. You create what you want, not through force or desperation, but through the simple act of being yourself at your highest level. But here's the brutal truth about all of this information. Knowing these principles changes nothing if you don't apply them consistently. You can understand quantum mechanics perfectly and still live in limitation if you don't do the daily work of aligning your signal. You can intellectually grasp the observer effect and still unconsciously observe from your wounds. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. The people who actually transform their reality are the ones who make a decision. Not just a mental decision, but a full-body, nervous system level commitment to living differently starting now. They don't wait for motivation or perfect circumstances. They don't spend months preparing to start. They begin immediately with whatever level of understanding and capability they currently have. Right now, you have a choice. You can file this information away as interesting concepts you might try someday when you have more time, more energy, more certainty. Or you can recognize this moment as the turning point where you stop being a passive victim of circumstances and start being a conscious creator of your reality. The quantum field is responding to you this very second. Every thought you're having, every emotion you're feeling, every expectation you're holding is being read and reflected back to you. The question isn't whether this works. The question is whether you're going to take responsibility for the signal you're broadcasting and start doing it on purpose. If you're ready to stop just dreaming about a better life and start actively creating it, your journey begins right now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more prepared. The version of you that already lives in your desired timeline is broadcasting their frequency right now, waiting for you to tune in. Upgrade now. Stop waiting for permission, proof, or perfect conditions. Your reality is responding to who you're being in this moment, and every second you delay is a vote for your current circumstances to continue. The field doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards decisive action aligned with clear intention. Your new timeline is one choice away. Make that choice now.